Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Chelsea, and if you aren't new here, then welcome back. So today I'm going to be doing a travel Q&A. So back in December, I asked people to ask me some questions related to travel, and I have not got around to answering them yet. So in this video, I'm going to be answering any that are still relevant. While I was away on my last backpacking trip in Central America and Mexico, I had a lot of people, friends, and just people who I don't know as well, messaging me, asking me a lot of questions about traveling and how I'm doing it on my own, how I'm finding it, how I afford it. So I'm going to be answering a lot of those questions in today's video. Okay, so I'm going to jump straight into the questions. So the first question is, how do you have the confidence to travel on your own? So this is a very common question that I had from people who would message me while I was away. And honestly, it's just, you just have to go and figure it out. It's difficult to say because obviously, like, before anyone goes on their first ever solo trip, you're feeling scared, you're worried, you don't know what it's going to be like. And even some trips now, like, even though I'm so excited to go, I'm still worried because maybe I don't speak that language, or like this last trip that I went on was my first solo trip to a non-English speaking country. So it was a little bit intimidating from that point of view, but then I was learning Spanish, so it was a little bit less intimidating. I stay in hostels so that I can meet people and make new friends, and a lot of people were like, how do you make friends in hostels? And honestly, I could go into like a whole video on this, but I think the best way to make friends in hostels is to just go and sit at the bar. Like, if you're on your own, the likelihood is that someone is going to come up and talk to you, whether that's someone that you're going to have a 5-minute conversation with and then that's it, or if that's going to be someone who you form a friendship with and you spend a few days with them. It could go either way, but I find that that's the easiest way, is just to go up to, well, wherever the social area is, not necessarily the bar, maybe it's the pool or whatever. Just go to somewhere that is social. Often it's easier in the evenings when everyone is at the bar. It's easier to find a lot of people who you can meet there. But yeah, I mean, people will just start talking to you, and if they don't, then you can just go up to people and start talking to them. I personally go up to smaller groups of people. I find it very intimidating to just walk up to like a big group of 10 people and be like, hey guys, can I join you? So I would go up to a small group of people and just ask them if I can sit with them, chat with them, whatever, spend the evening with them. But from the point of view of just having the confidence to even go on the trip in the first place, you literally just have to book it. You might be thinking about this trip that you really want to do. Let's say you want to go to Southeast Asia, you want to travel Thailand and Laos, but you're too scared to actually book the trip. You're thinking about it, you want to go with your friends, but none of your friends want to go with you. You still want to go. So you're thinking, maybe I should go on my own, but I'm a little bit nervous. I don't know if I'm going to make friends. I don't know how safe I'll be. You just have to book it. Literally just get on Skyscanner, book that flight so that you're going on this trip. And when you're out there, I promise you, you'll just figure it out. If you're worried about safety, then I have got some safety videos. You can have a look back on my channel and find them, and hopefully that'll help you feel a little bit more confident traveling on your own. Honestly, you just have to put yourself out of your comfort zone. If you're a bit of an introvert, you just have to pretend that you're an extrovert and meet people and just pretend like you're confident, acting confident, and eventually, after you've done it a few times, you will actually feel more confident. Another way that you could get around it is to go on a tour. So book a solo travel trip, but with a tour company. So you know that when you get to that country, you're going to be well looked after by the tour company. You're going to easily be able to make friends with other people who are also on the tour. So that's a really good way if it's your first ever time solo traveling, just to get used to it. The next question is, how do you fund your travels? So I get this question a lot from people where they're like, Chelsea, I swear you're always traveling. How do you fund it? Because I guess people who know me know that I don't have like a permanent job, and people ask me like, what is your job? Like, how do you travel so much? And honestly, there are a few different ways that I have managed to do it. The ways that I have saved up to travel is that I have got a part-time job or a full-time job for a short period of time. So I have worked in bars and restaurants, I've worked in Starbucks, I've worked as an outdoor activities instructor. I saved up a little bit of money while I was working in Disneyland Paris as well. So literally just get a job that is something that you don't need to commit to for a long time, something like working in a bar or working in a clothing store or something like this, where they expect a high turnover rate, because it's not going to be such a bad thing when you hand in your notice after a few months. And while you're working in these places, make sure that you work really hard, make sure that you're a really good member of the team so that they want you to come back. So I always try my best whenever I'm working. I never do stupid things. I never do things that aren't allowed. And I'm always just a good worker. I always do what I'm told so that when I come back from another trip and I need a job, they're happy to take me back, even if it's just for a few months, and I will let them know, like, I'm not sure exactly how long I'll be here, but it won't be for a long period of time. And normally they're okay with that because they know that I'm a good worker. They know that I know what I'm doing. They don't need to train me. So it's good. If you get like 1 or 2 jobs that you can always go back to, then that's a really good way to do it. You sort of work for a few months, travel for a few months, work again, then travel again. The other way that I afford to travel is I have actually gone on a trip that has been paid for me. I went away with a volunteer organization and I was promoting the organization. So I was in Australia, they paid for my flight over to Australia and they reimbursed my accommodation as well. So that's a really cheap way to travel because I wasn't paying for my flights, I wasn't paying for my accommodation, and I got a little bit of money each week just so that I was like able to pay for food and things like that. So that's also a really cheap way to travel. So if you can maybe look into doing that, maybe some work for a volunteer organization, a lot of them will pay for you to travel to a destination to help promote their organization. You don't do this kind of thing for the money, you do it because you love traveling. So yeah, that's another way that I do it. And then the last thing that I'll also add is that over the last year I have been teaching English online on an app called italki, and this has been really helpful while I was away on my last trip because I was able to still make a little bit of money while I was traveling, and I could do it all online, so I didn't need to try and find a job in the country that I was in. I didn't need to get a work permit. I could just work online from my iPad or my phone. So yeah, it's a really good way of funding travels. I think working online is becoming very, very popular now, and honestly, becoming a teacher for whatever is your native language is such a good way to make money online because you don't need any skills. You can literally just speak a language and then help other people learn that language. On italki, they have 2 different types of teachers. They have community tutors and professional teachers. So to be a professional teacher, you do need a qualification, and you can get the qualification online. But if you want to be a community tutor, you can't get paid. I don't think you can charge quite as much for your lessons, but you can literally just have a conversation with someone who is learning your language, because what a lot of people want is just a language partner to practice with. So you can be that. You don't need any qualifications, just to have that language as your native language. So for me, obviously that is English, and yeah, it's just a great way of trying to make a little bit of extra income. Okay, so the next question is, what is one thing that you pack in your backpack that you couldn't travel without, not including your phone or your passport or your money? I mean, obviously clothes, but I'm not gonna say clothes because that's way too obvious. What is something that I find really, really handy while I'm traveling? I think maybe I want to say like my GoPro or a camera. I think probably the GoPro because I like diving and just going in the water in general. So having a camera that I can document everything on, obviously I know that I have like memories of my trips. Okay, so the next question is, what pushed you to start traveling? Honestly, I think it was just as a kid, me and my family would always go on holiday each year, so we would always go to Spain, and then we started going to like other Spanish islands like the Balearic Islands and the Canary Islands. Did we even go anywhere else? I don't know, we literally just always went to Spain. I always loved these holidays, of course, who doesn't love going on holiday? But I think the main thing that really got me into traveling was like actually traveling rather than just going away on holiday was in 2016 I volunteered in South Africa. And so we were building houses and a community centre for children who didn't have their parents. They would then be able to sleep in this community centre. We were working on the conservation of cheetahs and crocodiles and also a few other large cats. And then we were also teaching children in schools, so they already spoke pretty good English, so we were basically just like helping them with their reading and their writing, or teaching them about like hygiene or things like that. And then like, yeah, while I was over there we did some safaris. We went to Swaziland as well. So in Swaziland we climbed a rock called Sebebe. I think that trip, I just loved it so much. And then afterwards, me and my friend who I went with, we went over to Cape Town for a week afterwards. and I think I just loved it so much, and I think that's where my love for like backpacking style traveling came from, because before that I'm pretty sure I had only ever been like on week-long holidays or 2 weeks or whatever. I'd never done any long trips or trips that aren't just like lounging by the pool or on the beach or whatever. So the next question is, what job do you have that allows you to travel? So I have kind of already answered this. At the moment I am an online English teacher. Mainly I would just do some temporary work and then travel, come home, earn more money, and then go away again. So the next question is, what is the diving like in Utila? Oh, that's a really good question. It's amazing. I absolutely loved it. So I did go from September to November. I was there for 2 months, and for the last month you could tell it was rainy season. It started raining, not like every single day, but a lot, and it was quite a bit colder. There was rarely ever any sun. The waves got quite, not like really bad, but there were a few days where we had to cancel the boats because the waves were too much. But other than the fact that it was rainy season, like the diving before like the rainy season got bad was amazing. And even actually while it was rainy season, like under the ocean, the thing I love about diving is that it can be like really rocky on the surface, and you're like being thrown around by the waves, or you're like caught in like currents and you're like drifting away from the boat and you're like trying to swim back to the boat, and it's all like crazy. And then you start letting the air out of your BCD, which is the thing that you wear that has like the air in to keep you afloat. You start letting the air out and you sink down, and literally like you're like this deep, and it's just calm. And it's just like such a contrast from the surface to under the ocean. So I do really like that during the rainy season. But anyway, just in general in Utila, there are like a lot of fish, lots of interesting things that you can see. We regularly saw like moray eels, and my favorite fish are fairy basslets. I absolutely love them. They're just so cute, and they like swim upside down. I just love them. They seem so playful, and I could just stare at them for ages. But yeah, there were like lots of really interesting looking fish. There were often stingrays and eagle rays. Oh my goodness, eagle rays are so beautiful. Often we saw dolphins, so we would come up from a dive and the captain would say, I've seen some dolphins, or I know where the dolphins are, like other captains have told him. And we would be able to go and swim with the dolphins in between dives as like our surface interval. We could literally just go and swim with dolphins, which was amazing. And obviously if you're there during whale shark season, then same could happen with a whale shark, which is absolutely insane. I unfortunately wasn't there during whale shark season, so I didn't get to see one. You are able to see things like nurse sharks and turtles. I was not fortunate enough to see either of these. Other people did while I was there. People would come back from a dive saying, I saw a turtle. It happened a few times, and I was like, oh damn, I wish I was on that dive. Or even just one group, while I was diving in a different direction, the other group saw turtles, and I was like, no. But yeah, I mean, the diving is just incredible. There's rarely any currents. The visibility is normally pretty good. Towards the end, when the rainy season was quite bad and there were a lot of storms, the visibility wasn't so good. And actually the water was very green at one point, which was really weird, but majority of the time the visibility was pretty good. I would highly recommend going diving in Utila. So the next question is, what kind of accommodation do you stay in? Hotels, Airbnb, hostels, etc. So normally I stay in hostels because I would travel on my own and then want to be able to meet people, so the best way to do that is to stay in a hostel. So the next question is, do you work in the places you travel to? And the answer is no, I don't work like actually in the area. Obviously I work online a little bit. I have thought about doing work in the places that I travel to, like working in a cafe or something, but then obviously you need work permits. Some places are a bit more lenient, but it's not legal, so don't do that. And other than that, I have also thought about doing Workaway. I have definitely spent hours on that website, like researching places that I could go, and then just end up booking hostels because it's easier, and I don't necessarily want to have to work. But then if I was trying to be really cheap during a trip, then I would definitely go for Workaway. Basically what it is, if you don't know, is you do a couple of hours work each day in exchange for free accommodation and sometimes food as well. Next question is, the most difficult part during your trip in Central and South America? So I didn't actually go to South America. I was only actually in Mexico and Central America. What is the lighting doing right now? Like, why am I looking like... Honestly, I think for me, the most difficult part was moving on. As weird as that is to say, that's probably not the answer that you were expecting, but I loved all the places that I went to, and moving on from them is actually really difficult for me to do. Some people find it easy, they have strong willpower and they're like, yep, I'll stay in this place for 3 days, move on. For me, sometimes that was the case. I could stay somewhere for just a few days and move on, but I planned to spend only 2 weeks in Mexico and I was there for 7 weeks. So yeah, I struggled to move on from Mexico. I went back to Tulum several times and I don't regret any of this, I don't. However, like in 7 weeks in Mexico, I could have seen a lot more than I did. And yes, while I was working a few of the days, so I wasn't like doing things every single day, but I definitely could have seen a lot more than just the Yucatan Peninsula and like Quintana Roo in 7 weeks in Mexico. So like my original plan was to have started in like Tulum, like the Tulum area. I wasn't really planning on going to any of the islands in Quintana Roo, and then I was going to go over to like Chiapas and then Puerto Escondido and then head down into Guatemala, go over to Honduras and then like work my way through Central America. What actually happened was I started in Cancun, went to Tulum a few days later, went up to Holbox, did the islands, went back to Cancun, went back to Tulum, Bacalar, Tulum. I just kept going back and forth, and I just couldn't leave Mexico. I loved it. Utila, I'd planned to stay there for 2 weeks and I was there for 2 months. Yes, I got a dive master qualification, which I wasn't planning on doing, so I'm really proud of myself for that, but I really struggled to move on from Utila. So yeah, I honestly think that was the most difficult part, like moving on from like the people that you meet and the places that you fall in love with. The next question is in German. Let me translate that because I'm really intrigued. Which countries did you go to? There we go. Yeah, so I just went to Mexico, Guatemala, and Honduras. The next question is, how was the hike up Acatenango? Oh, that's a good question. You can probably tell from the video if you've watched my if you have watched my Acatenango hike video, you could probably tell that it was not easy. It was very difficult. I think it was the hardest hike that I've ever done. It's almost 4,000 meters above sea level when you're at the top. I think it's like 3,970 or something like this. It's nearly 4,000 meters basically. And actually altitude doesn't affect me a lot. Like I didn't have like headaches and things, but I could feel like the shortness of breath and things like that. So yeah, no, it was difficult. I won't lie to you, but it was well worth it when you get to see the views at the top of the volcan Fuego erupting. It's just insane. It's absolutely beautiful. So yeah, I would recommend if I could give you one tip before you go, you can do it without any training. Like I hadn't done any exercise in ages and I had been a bit of a slob in Utila for 2 months before, which is at sea level as well, so I wasn't used to altitude. And then literally I got the bus over to Guatemala and then the next day went up the volcano, so I wasn't used to any altitude at all when I went up. But yeah, so maybe like try and get yourself accustomed to the altitude a little bit before you go, but also do some training and you will find it much easier. If you are interested in doing like hikes like that, then definitely do some training before. But yeah, it was very difficult, but so worth it. Okay, so the next question is, are there any travel items that you don't bring along and buy locally? I don't think there are actually, because I bring shampoo bars and soap bars, even my face wash is a bar. So I don't think there actually is anything that I don't bring with me. I'm lying. Bug spray. If I need bug spray, I will just buy it in the country, unless I have like a small bottle that will fit in my liquids bag. I normally buy bug spray, sun cream, and moisturizer in the countries that I go to, just because I like a big pot of moisturizer. I bring like my own facial moisturizer, but not like for my body. The next question is it easy to meet people while traveling solo? And the answer is yes. If you stay in hostels, it is very easy. There will always be people in hostels that you can meet. And even if it's a quiet hostel, you can still quite easily make friends. You just go to wherever the social areas are. Even if there's just like one group of other people, you could just go up to them and make friends with them. It's a little bit intimidating when there is just like one group of people. You're like, I don't really want to disturb them. But yeah, for the most part, if you stay in hostels that have like good reviews, often they'll be fairly busy, so it's very easy to meet people. And yeah, definitely meeting people in hostels is the easiest way, so I'd recommend hostels over hotels. Even if you want the private rooms, stay in a hostel. The next question is, what was your favorite country? I don't know if this is in relation to my last trip or in general. So when I'm thinking back to my last trip, my favorite country was, I think Guatemala. Like, I loved Mexico and I didn't really see a lot of Honduras other than Utila, so I can't really say Honduras, but I think Guatemala I preferred just because I absolutely loved the volcano hike. When I was in Antigua, I felt very safe. Like, Atitlan was absolutely stunning. So yeah, I think Guatemala was my favorite, which is why I'm so sad that I did not give myself a lot of time there at the end of my trip, but I'm so glad that I did go there anyway. And then in general, my favorite country that I've been to is either South Africa or Iceland. Australia is definitely up there as well, but I wouldn't say it's quite my favorite. I definitely think South Africa or Iceland. Okay, so that is the end of all the questions. I hope you've enjoyed this video. And yes, hit that subscribe button if you do want to see some more travel vlogs. I have some very exciting trips coming up in March. I've got 2 places booked, so if you would like to find out where I'm going, then make sure to hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out. So make sure to give this video a like and comment down below if you have any other questions about traveling in general, about my personal experience, likes and dislikes with traveling, or if you have just general travel questions, feel free to leave a comment down below, and I will see you next time. Bye everyone.